Hi. Okay, just some technical difficulties, I think. Hope everything is good now. Blah. Good morning, everyone. Here, I have your Twitch chat visible here. So yes, time for some continued work on MQTT, but first just coffee and remembering where we were yesterday or something. So yesterday I created this pull request, and I also improved it a little bit over the day yesterday, so it's actually pretty good. But Azure is really not being friends with us these days, so a lot of those pull CI jobs haven't even started yet. So I don't know. Still looks fine on the other CI jobs, so I think it's fine, and I'm going to continue. AppWeir are the Windows jobs, and they are a bit flaky. Yeah, there's so many queued. 30 queued jobs, 31 successful. And the failing one is the AppWeir one, and as you can see here, they're the flaky ones. 1 out of 1316 failed, 2 failed. So they're the ones we're working on. They usually I can rerun them and they will work, so I will actually ignore them right now. These are possibly 4 minutes. Okay, so that's a build failure. Why is that? Look at that. Comparison between signed and unsigned. Okay. In MQTT line 480. Where are we? Payload len is unsigned, RC is signed. Okay. Seems accurate and unnecessary. Yes, hopefully the AppWeir builds. I mean, they've been flaky for so long, so I've sort of gotten used to those silly red builds. But yes, that would be awesome to, at some point, not have them that flaky. So I yesterday when I started I watched this pull request during the afternoon, and I fixed a few other minor mistakes I had of the similar style, like this signed unsigned comparisons. I also and then I fixed the MQTT server, so make sure that it doesn't use a fixed port number. It now uses a random port number, and the test suite will just figure out which port number it uses, and then we will go with that, which means it'll dynamically use different port numbers every time, of course, but it'll also make sure that the tests cases we write can't use a fixed port number or it'll fail. So that's kind of cool. But when I did that, I remembered exactly what I wanted to do to verify the protocol part of MQTT. So I'm going to start with that today and make sure that the server logs the protocol part of the MQTT interaction from the client, and then verifies that after the test is complete. And then when I have the protocol part, I should add that to the test, to the only test we have so far, the 1190, and then start making sure that we can do the reverse operation, the publish from the curl command line to the server, and verify that. Yeah, so I figured that should be a good start. I also got some other fun bug reports. As you can see, I switched around where I have the video and the chat, so I should probably unify that on my two different layouts, or my different, so that my own mugshot doesn't just fly around so much. So I also got 2 other bug reports yesterday that I can possibly get around to taking a look at. They're here. There they are. So S-channel HTTP2 unable to post large content, which is a fun bug, right? That's S-channel is the Microsoft Windows TLS stack basically, and using HTTP2 with that. And apparently, and the reporter says that if he I saw somewhere here, compiled with OpenSSL backend, then it produces the right output. So it works with OpenSSL, but not with S-channel, and that's an interesting challenge because that's Windows. So someone will have to debug this on Windows, and I really do not. I don't even know how to do that. So Jesus. So I don't know. That's a bit of a tough one. I'm not sure who's going to do that. I'll just leave it for now, and I don't know. And then someone pointed out that the OS 400 port uses something that is now deprecated on IBM systems, which is also very operating system specific, and operating system IBM i7.2. I don't know exactly who's going to fix that either. So kind of big one. Oh, right, and we got this one too. If you do curl dash capital Z, I mean this one, so to do parallel transfers, and if you send all those, if you do many parallel transfers at once and you send everything to standard out, they will come intermixed on standard out, right? So you will get a little bit of small pieces of the files in a seemingly random order, and the user I'm not sure exactly what he wants. I say he, I don't know, but I think what he wants is to have the lines kept complete, so that it would intermix whole lines, like perhaps like Make does it, because he mentions Make can do it. I'm not sure if that is exactly what he wants, because it talks about JSON, and JSON certainly isn't that line-based, so even if it would be line-based, it wouldn't work to do more than one JSON file at the same time, which the reporter tries to do. So yeah, interesting. I'm not sure what to do about it. So I'll leave it there for now. So my idea with storing the protocol part when trying MQTT works like this. So, I don't have I'll switch to the MQTT branch. I think I need to rebuild because it changes the configure script and everything, so it'll do some extra magic here. But anyway, so in the server, it struck me that when we have when we do test cases with the web server, SWS we call it, silly web server, it saves input and output in these two files, and I think they are the ones we are going to use to save input and output to as well, to make sure that the test script can verify those two after test. Make sure that we sent the right thing and got the right thing back. So that's the plan. Build the entire test infrastructure as well. Lots of stuff. Okay. Store request. Yep, server input. So at least I'm going to do the server input part. The server input part would then be the protocol bytes, or the protocol part that curl sends. This isn't used, right? Config version. Request dump. Incoming. I think the function is called that. So here's an incoming request. It's gonna compare to. I'm not. Open the file. Request. Dump. Right. I don't ever. I mean, usually it doesn't matter what type it is, except on Windows. So we need to do it right. Okay. Right. Let's go protocol. If not protocol. Then something terribly bad happened. So protocol. Going to do that in the MQTT it function instead. Down here. There. Okay, and then for each of these, when we do the log hex, we should also make it log that hex to the protocol. So log hex. log protocol file output it's okay. Let's if with and we add a new line like that. Data. Okay, so I'll just add this then for all the things I want to make sure that the curl command or the curl sent. I'll just do this first and log. So if we do like this, log protocol buffer RC, just as a test. Conflicting types. Protocol was a bad name. Maybe dump instead. Right. We have this weird macro to use within curl. Open. It actually calls it like that. I'll just mimic the other server. Okay, because now we can run the server. And let's see if I can pick up the old MQTT command line. There it is. I'm getting the 1190 because we know that's the test case, so the server can pick some data to return to us. Like that. Boom. We got hello back in there. And in the log file we get a server input that is empty. Okay. Read bytes. Okay. So I'm going to take a look, right? So it was meant to store the first bytes we received to the file. Of course, we never closed the file or anything, so maybe that's. I'll actually add that down here. F close. Down. I don't think that'll make it much better because should have done that pretty much implied. Man. Boom. Server input now it was that. So server input. Yes, input. If I run test suite, then run test 1190. Okay, so now I want to make sure that the protocol part is fine. I'm thinking maybe if this is empty, it doesn't verify. Yep, I was right. So this, this is not going to work, right? Because if I do like this, well, this is the plan. So maybe I should do basically like this. This is the protocol MQTT in hex verified, but it'll fail the next time because it didn't. Why? Oh, right. I was gonna say that it will fail because curl will use a random client ID, but apparently maybe that wasn't part of that string. Anyway, I'll continue like this, and then to fix that random part, I have an idea about that too. So I'll start with log protocolling a little more of the log hex. Get the request like that. And I need to modify some functions, but basically all the log hex ones I add a log protocol. And the downside with doing this way is that the test case is going to look really hardcore because it's going to compare hex dumps basically of the protocol, which makes it a bit difficult to understand what it's doing. So in a better world, I have an idea. I could make the log protocol function analyze per. To make it better, it could analyze the actual protocol sent in here, and it could convert it to something more text-based. I'll save that for later. First, I need to fix these functions. This one, con_ack. So I need to pass the file handle to these functions. And then I need to add the arguments to these functions when invoked. So instead of actually trying to fix it, I'll just compile and ask the compiler to point out my mistakes for me. Like this. That was all of them. And then if I run the server, I run the entire test case. Boom. There it is. So now we know that's the entire protocol. not the entire interaction, because this is just one way. This is what the client sends, but I think that's fine. That verifies that curl sends the correct thing. And now I'm going to see if I get that mismatch, because this is curious. Did I mess up somewhere? Did we mess up somewhere? Okay, this seems to work, and it verifies the protocol stuff in the test case. Hexadecimal protocol dumps from the client. Okay, that's not really what I expected, because let's take a look at the code here. There's a rand here. Rand hex. It's supposed to add a random piece of bytes to the client ID, and it'll send that client ID in the connect packet. Connect packet being the one that starts with 10, right? Yes. So the protocol, this starts with 10. This is supposed to be, it's supposed to be say curl C6 is that's this. Here's the art of reading ASCII as hex. Lowercase c is 63, right? So 6375. That's the U. So this is curl, and then 3433333231. I know what it is, I think, because I'm yes, I already have this fixed, because this, how interesting. So anything that has a random part makes it really hard to compare, right? Because it'll do another random thing at times, but I'm pretty sure. And then the debug version of curl, it has a way to, here it is. The debug version of curl you can override the random stuff by a fixed number instead, and that's what this is. So it overrides the real one by this one, but it'll make this test only work for the bug versions, because all other versions will have a real random. Yeah, exactly. This is a static seed for debug versions of curl if this environment variable is set, which is obviously is then in the test suite but it's meant only for debug versions of curl, and I obviously build a debug version in my tests here. So that's why it works like this. It wasn't really intended. So I can get away with this by making sure that this test case only works like this for debug builds only. But it's a bit unfortunate, because it limits the tests coverage, right? Because then not that many people and CI builds do debug builds. So maybe I'll instead do something like I think I'll instead do and strip this line and cut out the right part of the string before it gets compared, so we don't compare the random part and only compare the part before. And we have support for that in the test scripts, and it's pretty elaborate because it makes I'm copying here because I don't recall exactly how to do it. And this is basically some kind of it's a Perl regular expression string, so we can get the left part and we can if that I've done this before many times, but it's always better to get inspiration from existing. Right, I've used parentheses and then used like that. Okay, now I remember. So I can basically search and replace to like this. I can match this part, and I can replace the entire string with only the first part. So that didn't work because then it wouldn't. There, see? So now it compares only the first part, so which is the fixed string, right? Before it adds the randomness. So bam. Like that, the random part of the client ID from the connect message. I mean, just to make sure that we remember what it is the next time I look at it. So then if I compare like that, and now we know, and now we compare and make sure that curl sends the right protocol. And of course, we now sort of assume that what curl does now is the right way to do it, but I think it is. So let's hope that it is. And at least we verify that it keeps doing the exact same thing every time. And they're like that. So I think that is decent. Yep, I think that's a good fix for the verifying the protocol stuff. MQTT, verify the client, verify the protocol. There. And now that should work with static seed or non-static seed. Okay, cool. So the next fun thing is go back to the 1190 and I make a new test case. And let's call it test 1191. 1191 is going to be MQTT publish. I can't spell. Publish data. That's what the server returns, but in this case, the server shouldn't return anything, I think. We will publish MQTT. I'm gonna look here. So like that, you could publish something to somewhere, to something, and that's what we want to test here. So we publish something to 1191, and we use 1191 just to make sure that we have a number to load the test case from. And here too we strip the same thing, because the connect thing I believe is going... Wait a minute. Okay. I didn't save it in the new file name, so let's do this. Data copy 1190 to 1191, and then restore 1190. There's 1190. Here's 1191. Okay. We will post something to 1191. It's an MQTT publish. The server doesn't understand this at all, so this will break in some fun way. What will happen? Boom. Okay, yeah, that didn't work, right? Because we tried to verify the completely wrong protocol flow. So yep, that was expected. So now I want to make sure that the server understands publish. We can see in the protocol dump that it got this 30. 30 is publish. So that's the first thing we got. So okay, we get a publish from the client. I think here, incoming subscribe. And it's not an incoming subscribe, it's an incoming publish. That's what we want. We want it here, I think. Else if is a publish, incoming publish, right? That's what we hoped. And really, if we run the server, just server instead of the entire test case, and we do, we post data to it. Incoming publish, yes. So that's where we need to add code. We need to add code. Back in the protocol spec. You know, I read this yesterday, but who can remember? And it's also useful to see what curl sends, the code in curl, and we can just make sure that we right, and it has this, it encodes the length of everything. Then there's a topic, and then there's a payload. Right. And we already have that publish thing ourselves, so we know how publish looks like, because I wrote it yesterday. Okay, so we need to decode the length. Didn't write anything like that yesterday, did we? Decode, and this also struck me also yesterday that there's a decode length already here in the client code. And I'm just going to copy that. I prefer hexadecimal here. Decode length, yes. So the decoded length is actually at byte 2. Of course, it's always interesting, right, when the protocol actually talks about byte 1 as the first byte. A lot of people would call that byte 0. But this is byte 1 is the published byte. And it has 3 bits in there that we it's actually like that. It should only compare the top 4 bits, because the top 4 bits are what says it is, or they say. I would imagine that I should add support for QoS, but right now I'm not sure exactly what it means, so I'm sort of I'm leaving that for now. I'm going with the simplest possible first, and then add more stuff and complications as I go. Decode length. Size t bytes. So if I decode length, so length I can spell. And we'll decode it at 1 bufflen. Okay, so that's basically setting how big the buffer is, and that's well, how big is it? This is actually not very good. If this sounds rubbish with the highest bit all the time, then it'll overflow the integer in there at some point. So this should actually, well, this is just a server side. But maybe the client side should be more clever than this when we do this in curl, so that the bufflen here is, so it should only accept up to 4 bytes and not more than 4 bytes. Okay, we decode the length. We know how big the packet is. We know how many bytes the length field was. And that's the remaining length, right? So that's remaining length. That's the term in the protocol spec, so I think it's actually pretty useful to use the same name, at least occasionally. So remaining length, that's the remaining length apart from the two first bytes. So remaining length should be RC minus 2. Oh, now I forgot the compiler warnings. I didn't fix those. Yeah, okay, I'll get back to those. The ones in AppVeyor. That was this case, right? Because RC is signed and this is unsigned. Wrong remaining length. Let's just call it that and go to So then we know we have the entire packet correctly, and then we get the topic length first. And for some reason, the topic length is then written in 2 bytes, and not the variable encoded thing. So the topic length is topic len. Where is it? It is in the buffer then, and it's 1 plus bytes. That's the most significant bits, and that's the least significant bits. So like that. Topic length, and what do we need to know about this? Well, we want to in this case we don't respond anything particular, do we? I guess we send a pub ACK. Yes, so we basically we just parse everything to make sure that it seems topic len should then be make sure that topic len is leaves if topic to do verify topic len. We don't actually have to do that in the server, I think, because we're going to verify the protocol bytes exactly, so we know that it'll send the correct the correct protocol stream anyway. But because after the topic comes the payload. Log hex like that. Packet RC, and we do a log protocol dump packet RC. So if I do that, let me just Oh, that's comparison of integer of different. We can typecast, it doesn't matter because we're not going to use that big data chunks anyway. I don't have any topic len. Not packet, it's buffer. It's kind of stupid of me to use different names and different functions for the same content, basically. Well, topic len isn't used for anything. Log message got bytes topic. Run the server, run the client. Boom. And then the server says incoming publish got 4 bytes topic. That's correct, right? No, which is topic? Topic is the 1191. 11, that's the 1191. 31, 31, 39, 31. That's 1191. And then that's the payload is the rest, and it's supposed to be data, so it's 64, 61, 74, 61. Yeah, that seems to be correct. So yep, that's the publish one. And if I do that with the test case, we get 2 like that. Why do we get 2? Probably because something is wrong. We're not gonna do the 82, not the 90, and not the 30. We're gonna get that 30. Just make sure that the 90 is still fine. The 90 and 1190 is fine. Subscribe, publish. Yeah, we get 2 of those. I think it's because we just... I think it's maybe because we just don't act correctly. Because now we're going to do a pub ack here. That's like those other acks. Sub ack, pub ack, dump, fd. I bet it's a packet ID in there. But hey, these are not white terminals, right? You're talking about my Emacs window, perhaps. The terminals are very much pink and yellow here. But no, I'm very much against anything else than a light background in my texts, in my source code editor windows. I actually use a theme that is no, I'm not running Emacs in a terminal. My terminals are actually light colors with black text, or what it's called in KDE. So I actually get a variety of random light colors. So the fact that they're pink and yellow here is more of a coincidence. They're actually sort of yellow and light green and light blue and light pink randomly. That dark mode thing, that's mostly a myth. So yeah, but sure, if that makes you happy, so go with it. And especially on computer monitors, you that's really a myth. But okay, I understand it. You go with what you think, and I know that a lot of people think that terminals and editor windows should be black in the background, but I think that's really, I think that makes code and text harder to read. So I go with maximum readability for myself, so it's good that we can pick whatever we think is fine. And I guess sort of that's an argument for going with customability, right? So that you could pick whatever you think is fine for you. I don't really, I mean, why argue about different choices? It's better if everyone picked their own choice and they're happy with it, so that's good, right? I don't argue about which operating system to use, which editor to use, which terminal to use, which whatever to use. You go with whatever, and if that makes you happy. PubAc. Yeah, but okay. Yeah, again, that's a personal preference, right? And come on, how long have you been reading code on monitors? I've started reading code on monitors 35 years ago, and I think I'm pretty used to it. So I know what I prefer. So yeah, I can switch it if I prefer something else, but I really don't. So I stick to this. Morning, Frank. No, this is the first MQTT support in curl. Well, it's not there in curl yet, and it won't land until after the pending release. So this is basically work on getting. If I would have to wear glasses, you would have seen me wear glasses right now. I actually wear glasses sometimes when I read like a book or a really tiny text. But I don't need glasses when reading a terminal. And I'm getting old by now, so I'm sort of, I realize that at some point I might get into that and start using glasses perhaps, but I can read just fine right now. With these bright themes and crisp texts, no problem for me. Right, I could have been wearing contacts, but I don't. I don't wear glasses. I don't need any. Apart from maybe when I read books. Well, I actually appreciate that when I read books. So reading glasses when I read books. PubAc, I need to fill in packet ID. PubAc. Well, you know, people need to keep busy. I rather keep writing code and do something fun instead of thinking about what people should use or not. And I can't spell. That's old. PubAc. I bet we don't have that defined. PubAc is number 4. MQTT PubAc number 40. Well, sometimes you can think about what other people should do. I can agree with that, but I mean, Sometimes you should, sometimes you shouldn't. So I did something wrong here. I didn't send the packet ID, right? So packet ID, packet ID. Packet ID from the publish packet. What is packet? I think in many aspects, sort of the dark themes, that reminds me of the old, green text on black terminals from, or 3270 terminals that I used at IBM back in the early 90s, and the other sort of old stuff. Packet ID, where's the packet ID? Packet identifier. Right. So there's a packet identifier potentially in the publish thing, right? So here's the client doing a publish, and it might have, this one doesn't send a packet ID because it doesn't send the QoS, and it only sends a packet ID if there's a QoS. Look, there's a packet ID when you do subscribe. I think people will always argue about things that we use. So, it's either text editors, operating systems, plugins, browsers, keyboards, or whatever. It's an easy discussion to have, and I think it's something with humans and discussion. So I'm sure that we will always have these discussions about what's good and bad, and what you should use and what you shouldn't use. Yeah, but I'm perfectly well. I would say that going with what works for your particular environment and taste, that's a good thing, right? So if you're in a particular position where one of those colors or modes is especially suited, then go with that. I think that's a good idea. So this is MQTT, and right now I'm talking too much and working too little, so I don't really know what I'm doing. But this is a publish coming in from the client to the server, and the server should respond with a pub ACK, and it doesn't do that correctly right now. To do handle packet ID if there is one. There isn't in this case, but it could be. So then if I run test case 1191, boom. So then we see we still get 2 publish from the client. But why do we do that? Why is it being like that? We see that I have not done the correct debug info thing. So I've added. So this is, as I explained yesterday, I could explain again this code that I'm looking at in curl here. The client-side MQTT was written by my brother Björn like a year ago, and I've refreshed it and I'm polishing it since then, but it lacks a few little things that I've polished up, and one of the things that it lacks is that, or lacked rather, is the proper debug output for sending and receiving things. Publish. So if it's sort of, if we ask to do a post, some protocol leakage here, right? So it's if we ask for an HTTP post, make an MQTT publish. Not very nice, but okay. And if it, so I'm gonna try and see if I rebuild curl, rebuild. All right, you might hear my family in the background. So yeah, I actually can't really fix that. So you should just consider that noise from the office around. So I don't think it's actually a concern. Yeah, there's some talk about some virus somewhere. I'm not sure exactly what it is. Oh, well, I'm kidding. So I'm sorry if you can actually hear something of the noise behind me, but I'm trying to hopefully you won't hear them too much. So, okay, now I'm going to just run this server, and I want to make sure that what the client does, and I want to maybe run GDB again, right? Yes, I work full time from home. I've been doing it for many years, a little bit over 6 years now. So for me, this is my standard office. What's new is that the rest of the family is also around, which I'm not used to. So that's a little bit of a new experience. Oh, that didn't work at all. Why? So I am getting paid for curl development. So yes, I work with curl full time from my home office, and I'm all alone in here mostly. So if you've seen on some of my some of my screens here, I show a little logo, and it's impossible for me to point in the right direction because on the screen is reversed, but there's a logo up here that says WolfSSL, and I work for WolfSSL. We sell curl support and that's what I do full time. So if anyone anywhere needs help with curl, patching, features, support, port, whatever, we do that at wolfSSL, and then I can spend my whole days working on curl. And then of course I work on for customers primarily, but for most people that's sort of the difference here. The difference is really not important, because most of what I do for customers will end up in the open source repository anyway. wolfSSL is a company, and we do a lot of open source. We do a lot of libraries. Mostly wolfSSL, the SSL TLS libraries, of course, sort of given that's the name of the company. That's the primary open source library of wolfSSL makes. But we make a lot of other libraries too. They're all open source. Yeah, this is a KDE, but exactly, you're just seeing a few selected windows, so you don't get the KDE feel or anything. It's it's really superfluous information that this is KDE, but I'm just telling you that it is because everyone wants to know what it is. But I'm using KDE. You just don't see it or feel it like KDE. These are just a selection of windows that I want to show off. But I think what's wrong is for development, this is made for me showing off my development, right? So I do this to show off. So this isn't exactly the way I have it laid out on my screen. But I mean, I use two huge screens here, right? So, and I have basically one of the screens I have I have, like, for example, if I switch to my Firefox here, I have the Firefox up all the time, right? So it's on the other screen, so I just switch over. So usually I have a lot of more things on the screens than just these three windows and chats. So I have a bunch of different chats. I have Twitter and IRC up all the time. And I could just reiterate that if you want to chat curl more than just during the streaming times, we're always on in IRC on Freenode in the curl IRC channel. I don't code on my laptop a lot. I basically only do that when I have to, and that's when I'm not at home. So this is my desktop regular development machine. So I think my problem here is that I logged output twice. Incoming publish log hex. Yeah, I logged the entire thing there, and I think it's logged already. Boom. 40. Ha. Yeah, that's actually not the incoming, that's the outgoing, right? Yeah, it actually logs more than just the incoming data. I just didn't really think about it. Yeah, well, I mentioned it before. When I started, I've been doing open source and coded for a long time. And back in the 1990s, I wrote a bot. It's actually still available. So it's actually nowadays, where is it? I think it's on SourceForge. There it is, Dancer. That's a IRC bot. Last update I think that might be incorrect. But anyway, we started that bot in the mid 90s somewhere, maybe 94, 95. I don't remember. Me and a Danish friend, Björn. Incidentally, the same first name as my brother. But anyway, we started that and then we worked on it. And I used IRC back then, or as I do now. And one day I wanted to add a currency rate exchange sort of as a service in the bot, so that people like here in the Twitch chat, like this, hey, dancer, exchange 100 USD to SEK, like that. Yeah. That's my daughter behind me. That's her room, just over here. So she sneaks out and tries to hide from the camera, but anyway, so I was working on that dancer currency exchange thing, and then I needed a little tool to download the exchange rates from somewhere, and I found an HP site that listed the sites, so I needed a little tool to download the HP stuff. Yeah, exactly. It's completely, the Twitch chat is completely useless. No exchange rates at all. How are we supposed to know how much 100 USD is in Swedish crowns? So there, a bit slow, but it works. So yeah, so I needed to download those. Well, I didn't need to. I wanted to download the exchange rates from an HTTP site. You know, every once in a while, every day, twice a day, something like that, to make them sort of fairly accurate. And then I didn't really find a tool, and I found a tool named HTTP GET, written by a Brazilian guy, whose name I can't recall exactly for the moment, but it's in everywhere. So I started with that. That's how I got into HTTP the first time, and it didn't really work the way I wanted to, so I expanded it and extended it, and I sort of became the maintainer of it soon after, and because the original author didn't really want to deal with it. And then I added more. And then I added Gopher support and FTP support. I renamed it to URL get and blah blah blah, and then it went. I added FTP upload to it in the early 1998, and then when with upload, the name URL get wasn't that good either. So URL get that can upload. Now I had to rename it. So what should I rename it to? Well, it worked on URLs, it's a client, maybe C URL. And then also, of course, because of the word play, it could be also like C URL, as in see it, like on screen. No, there's nothing left, I believe, from, I mean, the first curl was 2,000 something lines in 1998, so there weren't a lot of lines to begin with. From HTTP GET, I think, was 400 lines, so 400 lines. Today we have 165,000 lines, I believe, so it could have at the most be 400 lines left, but I'm pretty sure that there's nothing left. I think they were all extinct really before a curl even happened. Well, I've explained it before in my various curl talks, but of course nobody has listened. Not everyone has listened to my curl talks or can even be bothered to do that. But so nowadays curl grows. I could show you that, but I think the growth in number of lines of code in curl is actually pretty cool. Sorry. It popped up on the wrong browser here. I'll just need to, I got lost among the browsers. So you could look at this. Here's the number of lines of code in the curl project. It's remarkably straight, right? Started here in 1998, March 20, 1998, number of lines of code, and this is taken from the Git repository, counting, basically this is a one sample every day we have changed number code lines in, and this counts number of lines of code in the source, lib, and include directories. So I am sort of the linearity of this. So yeah, it means that we add what 20,000 lines in about so it's about 10,000 lines a year, roughly. And it's been going like that for a very long time. And what is interesting is that if you look at this dashboard that I created this just a week ago, 2 weeks ago, right? So a lot of different graphs from stuff in the current project, and I particularly like that most of the graphs are just like this, right? They're all pointing up. Test cases, lines of code, CI jobs, bug fixes, API calls, contributors, number of protocols, TLS backends, or set opt options. They're all pointing in that sort of with that grade, that angle. Curl authors, command line options. That's one of my favorite graphs. We're up here in the 231 options right now. So CVEs are hopefully going down, but not this one, announced and fixed, because here is a sort of accumulated amount. So we're up at 92. So, but what I appreciate with this graph is the little flat line here, because it means that it's been well almost 6 months since the last CVE was reported. So hopefully this can be sort of flat for a long time. And that is what I appreciate now. Maybe I should just zoom on this little flat line and enjoy that. The thing is that, yeah, it should go down rather, but it uses the current list of CVs, and the current list is now 92. It was at 93 because we went down one, but since I'm only using the current list for this, so we don't see that it should actually have been up to 93 and gone down to 92. So some of these graphs could use some. I actually sort of what I wanted to do with more of these graphs was actually do some more, projections. If this continues for another year, where will it end up? But then my GNU plot skills came in, and the sort of lack of skills, so I didn't really figure out how to do that. The first, you mean, yeah. So the first I have this. I think I'm pretty happy with this little graph here. This is all the CVEs over time, just enumerated, right? The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 98, and here they are, and the pink, sort of more purple bars, they show the number of days the flaw existed in code. So I know exactly when the flaw was introduced and when it was fixed. So we can see here that back this flaw actually exactly vulnerability window really. So here we can see one of the flaws existed in the code almost over 6,500 days. So and I think this is interesting because it shows that a lot of the flaws actually exist in the code. I mean, thousands of days, right? So I think it's interesting. So it's ideally you would hope, or you would think, that the bars would go down over time, so that we would find we would have found the old bugs already, and now we would only find newer bugs. But it doesn't seem like that really. Maybe we had older, a little bit older, and here the green line shows the project age as a comparison. But I don't know. Security is really hard, and I think this. I like this graph just because it says something about security problems. So this last one existed in 1,000 days. That's almost 3 years, right? And here, the second to last, almost 4,000 days. 4,000 days. That's what's that? That's a little bit over 10 years. Well, we do fuzzing, and we do a lot of fuzzing these days, and more fuzzing every day. We actually increased fuzzing in the CI just today, so now we do 40 minutes of fuzzing in every commit and PR. Most of these are not due to dependencies. A bunch of these are, of course, not maybe dependencies, but specific to a certain kind of build or environment. Like a lot of our more recent ones are Windows specific, for example, and then if you don't build on Windows, you wouldn't build that code. Or some of them are, if you use this particular feature, you might be that. But I mean, that's just the way it is. Of course, that also makes the features sometimes harder to fuzz, for example, because the fuzzers we use are all on Linux, so they will never fuzz Windows-specific code, right? So if we do a problem in Windows-specific code, they won't fuzz it. So we won't find that in the fuzzers. And of course, that goes with pretty much all non-Linux platforms. If we have non-Linux specific code, that won't be fuzzed. So yeah, I really like my new set of graphs, but then I'm really a sucker for graphs. So yeah. Yeah, and if you're interested, all these graphs, they're in this new GitHub repository, curl stats. So I have all this. Here are all the scripts. They're mostly Perl scripts for generating the data, and they're GNU plot scripts for generating the graphs. And all of these scripts are running daily. Then that's what generates these graphs. So they're sort of all fresh and updated. Well, some of them are only updated per release, right? So you won't see them updated until the next release. But anyway, they're updated every day. Well, I can't listen to music when I stream like this, right? So I do listen to a lot of music when I work here in my loneliness, and actually find music and headphones pretty good to isolate myself from the rest of the family, so I don't have to hear them. But right now I can over sort of talk over the others in my house myself, so I don't have to listen to anyone. To music, I listen to myself. Yeah, I don't want to torture anyone with my music, and I don't want to have any sort of rights problems by violating someone's rights by polluting the stream with music that I don't own. Now I'm going to switch over to my actual thing here, which is not talk about music, but talk about MQTT. And I noticed that I got this 40. Right, I didn't get the 40. I logged the pub ACK, and that's because I realized that I didn't only log. Exactly. And if you talk to yourself, I'm not sure if streaming qualifies as talk to myself or talk to someone else, but there's nobody else here and nobody is talking back to me, so it's more like, yeah, I guess it's talking to myself. Yeah, so I figured I realized that I'm not only logging what curl sends, I'm actually logging what the server responds as well. Of course I do that, but I think that's good. It makes it more complete. So then it actually, this protocol thing is actually then logging. It logs both ways, right? So it logs what the client sends and what the server responds with. So, okay, there it is. It should probably do disconnect. So that's the E00 here. That's I'm starting to get a feel for how the MQTT protocol looks like over the wire. That's the disconnect packet. What my employers think, well, why would they care about this? So I work with open source for an open source company. I produce open source. I work on curl. I get paid to work on curl. I'm working on MQTT in the open for my employer. Why wouldn't I do that on Twitch? So sure. On the contrary, now they can see what I do at work, because all my I'm the only employee in Sweden, so nobody would know what I do if I didn't show them. Look, boss, I'm working on curl here. So okay, let's do disconnect after I do the pub ack. Where am I? Pub ack. There it is. And then a disconnect. You can try it out at least. It should disconnect. Bam. Yeah, I actually can't see how this hurts in any way. Well, it might hurt if I would be a rude and unpleasant person, of course, or do whatever, do something that isn't, I don't know, good for anyone. But why would I do that? Look, I'm not only slacking, I'm actually doing something sometimes. So that's why I haven't streamed any curl development, right? Since I looked it up, I haven't done it since November, and then I did it yesterday. So basically, yeah, I haven't done any curl stuff since November, right? And now I do it again. So I better show when I do something. Maybe, or maybe I should show this thing here, this little graph, Daniel's share of total commits in curl. I'm up here at 57% of curl in total today, and it's pretty much flat line. So I'm not sure where it's. It's decreasing. It is not. If I would zoom in, we would see that it's actually getting lower and lower by the day. I would prefer to see it as that others are working harder, and I think that's a good thing. Look here, author of the month this far. Look, Mark, you're number 1 for April 2020. Out of the 5 commits, Mark has done 3 of them. We just haven't done any commits yet so far in April, pretty much. And according to Git stats, I'm not the number 1 author all months. I suspect that this is actually a bug in Git stats, because I think I did more than 33 commits in April, so I think it's a bug. It doesn't matter. But Mark is here. Here's number 1. Woo, Mark, go! And here, and here's the graph of committers in the curl project. Yeah, well, sometimes people, you know, they talk about the bus factor and me having so many commits. So I guess it's good that others are. So 1191 actually said okay here now. Did you see it? Did you see? Woo! So now I should be able to run 1190 and 1191 like this. And you mean working on quick for curl? Well, you could there's a v quick, so you could actually see that. Or you can do like this. Short log. Who did the most commits about quick in curl? I think I won. Or what is it? Summary? Yeah. They could be sorted. Those are the ones. Tatsuhiro is the guy writing ngTCP2 and ngHP3. Alessandro works on the Quiche library, which is the Cloudflare Quick and HTTP3 library. Otherwise, the other are well, David Benjamin is a Googler. He works on boring SSL. Daiki, you know, he works at Red Hat. He seems to be working on GNU-TLS. So he's done the adaptation for ngTCP2 with GNU-TLS. So there are a bunch of people working on Quick, and Quick and HTTP3 works. They both work in curl, but there's room for improvement. It doesn't really. They're not perfect in any way yet. So we need to. There are more polish to do. Only fix that little. The little free thing. Fix up MQTT free. And then we add the tests. Data test 1191, test 1191, MQTT publish. There. So back to my pull request then. $30 queued. Wasn't it 30 like I'm scrolling back to see. Yeah, I didn't we mention 30 already an hour ago? Yeah, so it's completely stuck basically. Azure CI builds are really not flying right now. I'll go and check this. These where are they? AppVeyor build warnings. I wanted to take a look at again. So here's AppVeyor, and I believe the build warnings were in this 6-minute build. There. I think payload len. I'll switch over there. We try to do the builds in general with as picky compiler options as possible, so that we sort of we don't let anything through by mistake. Payload len. No, it's a comparison. It's this comparison. payload len is unsigned and RC is signed. Is that 5.5? I'm trying to see, not equals RC, it says. I think it's this one. I think I will do like this now, and I will fix up. I just need to clean up the commits a little bit, because to make them sort of easier to deal with, easier to view. I'll just rebuild it and see that I didn't break anything with that, but it should work fine. Okay, so with this, we actually test both subscribe and publish with test cases. And yeah, I should also just try out another thing. I should just try to repeat one of these things many times and see that it actually works to do a lot of... I have this repeat feature, so I can do 1190 and 1191 10 times. And they are this slow because they use Valgrind now by default, so each test takes a second, basically. If I switch off Valgrind for the test, they should be much faster, but I wanted to make sure first that they I can do like this and use -n and use it without Valgrind. And then it didn't work. Interesting. But yeah, but that's, oh no, that's sort of known, right? Yeah, this is the problem. Haha. Cool. Yeah. This is the thing. Yeah, but that's because the Valgrind makes everything so slow. So when I use it much faster, I run into these problems. The bis is sending in curl and handle E again, I'm pretty sure. So the MQTT parts in the curl implementation is very naive and basic, so it won't work when we do a lot of them and do them fast. So that's what I have next to fix, right? And it's good to know that I can make it fail like this, because I can now just repeat that and and then work on fixing it. And I think that's going to be my next step, actually. I'm going to say that we actually test publish now, and we verify the protocol parts like that. Like so I can update the comment. And now they're fixed, and now I'm going to force push this to the branch, and since I'm alone in that branch and I'm alone in the, and it's a sort of draft PR, I don't hesitate to force push. So force push now to restart all the CI builds and everything. That's good. And I'm sure then it'll take a long time, since the Azure builds are totally super slow. Okay, so let's see if I can reproduce that failure. I can do it much faster too. I wonder if it's 1190. Yep, I can reproduce the failures at some point, at least, if I do a lot of them. Well, thank you. It's actually pretty fun to work with curl. That's what I do it. I actually get that question quite a lot. How come I still work on curl, and how can I keep up still being interested and think it's being fun after 22 years. Actually more than 22 years, since I worked on it before I called it curl. So maybe approaching 24 years or so. But it's hard to describe. Why do you think something is fun? It's really hard to describe it. So yeah, I think it's fun. It's fun to have a lot of users. It's fun to do something that a lot of people appreciate and that is used and has a use and purpose and everything. So I appreciate it, and then I get to do fun live streams like this. So we're at 1 hour and 50 minutes, and I'm going to take a look at this. So MQTT, the thing is that the implementation here, curl side, I mean, we don't really care about the server. If the server is badly implemented or is stupid or anything, or has limitations, it has. So it's not a big deal, because it's just a stupid test server. But the implementation in curl should be good. So it should be reliable and fine, and we should be able to run, we should be able to publish a lot of things like this without. And I'm not sure this is actually, it is a failure, because this is the disconnect. So it actually sends this publish. Well, curl doesn't support MQTT. That's why I work on implementing support for MQTT. So with this, it supports MQTT. Look, a curl command line, MQTT : / localhost, blah, blah, blah. If you want to get started to contributing, let's dive into that. There's a page like this. Here's the page. here's the link. I think this is a starting point. I wouldn't say the starting point. It is a starting point. And unfortunately, you will see that a lot of the issues, and just I want to sort of pick some low-hanging fruits. You will have a problem to find many low-hanging fruits because the low-hanging fruits tend to get fixed really fast. So there won't be many low-hanging fruits hanging around to get picked. So usually I would encourage you to find something that you want to work on. If you have found a spelling mistake, a bug, weird behavior, or by all means, if you find a bug mentioned in known bugs or in the existing list of bugs that you think you sort of want to work on or can contribute to. And of course it matters how experienced you are and knowledgeable in the protocols or in C or whatever. So dive in and try it out. I mean, it's not going to hurt you. It might confuse you and make you think that it's complicated, but otherwise just go with it. And if you get stuck, ask questions or I mean, we're all in the same team here. So ask here in the stream, ask in the IRC channel, ask on the mailing list, tweet me on Twitter or wherever. Jump in, try it out, see what happens. We might be a project and code that is used widely by many people, but we're a small project, right? As you could see, we're not that many contributors. We're not that many, sticking around. So talking about project team, we're just a bunch of people. So it's like a small friendly group of humans. So we're all likable. Well, maybe not me, but the others are really good. No, but just try it out and see what you can find out and learn. I would also encourage you to maybe hang out on the mailing list for a while and just see what others are doing and having problems with and needing help with. Yeah, it's unfortunate. The curl up, for me, the curl ups are really the best conferences of the year. So for me, I think it's really sad that we won't have it in Berlin in May. We will do an online version instead, but online is not going to be the same thing. But of course, it'll be the best we can do. We haven't sorted out the details. I'm going to have to do that soon to do something about it. I'm probably going to use some. We're probably going to use some of these conference video tools and just pretty much do a big video conference meeting for 2 whole days during that weekend. Maybe start a little bit later in the morning, go a little bit into the evening, so maybe be a little bit more friendly towards our friends in the continent to the west. Like this hour I do this streaming is really not very US friendly because they're mostly asleep by now. So that's my thinking, and maybe do a little so we can do presentations and do communications over video instead. Well, if you're new to C, I think curl is actually pretty good to read code for, because we do pretty readable C code. But of course, we do C code like, according to me at least, like we should do it. So maybe it'll be a bit complicated at times because of the algorithms or systems and concepts we use. But as far as C code goes, it's not complicated C code, I would say. And I think our code style and way of writing code makes sure that we write the code as clear and readable as possible. So, but then again, I'm fairly biased, and I wrote large portions of the code, so I'm pretty much not the guy to ask about, how readable it is or how easy it is for a newbie. I mean, everything in curl is documented, and we try to document everything as much as possible, and so I hope that a lot of it is documented and possible to get into. But I mean, if you're coming to this as a newbie, I don't have that experience, so I can't really. I'm probably not the right person to talk about that point of view. There are these, there's a contribute page, which is similar in spirit, and there's an internal page that talks about a whole bunch of internals and the selections and sort of layout of how things work. That's a bit old now. I'm not sure it's perfectly up to date and accurate, but could be a start if you want to read up how the code is laid out. Now back to my code for today. Sorry. No, not coffee break just yet. We need to have a coffee break soon because I'm totally out of coffee. But okay, let's get started on fixing the reading and the writing. So the reading and the writing in the curl end here is naively written because it uses this busy write concept, which is wrong, which basically means that if it writes and it writes too much so that it gets an E again back because it can't write anymore because of float control, basically, it'll just loop until it can continue to write. That's not how we do it. Well, you can do it, but it's the wrong way to do it. So this should be fixed. So we need to actually store what to send, and we need to wait until until the socket is writable again, and then continue to write, and so on. So we need to make it a proper state machine. We do busy writes in several different places, and I think we have the similar approach, but the other way around then. So if we do read and we get an E again back, it'll fail. And that's, I think, what we see in the test failures. We try to read before we have gotten the data, so we get an E again back, but then we consider that a failure instead. So again there, if we get an E again back, we should just wait a little bit more, and then get the rest of the data. And we of course have an entire infrastructure for that in curl, and we do reading and writing completely non-blocking and async, sort of, so that we could do, we should be able to do 100 parallel MQTT connections at the same time, and none of them should block the other connections just because they're slow. I'm also, of course, interested in getting to know if you have MQTT stuff at home, or MQTT, servers, devices, MQTT being very IoT, used a lot in IoT devices. So if you have stuff like that, and you, I'd be very interested if you try out early curl stuff on those things to see how it behaves, and if, get some real world experience with this. I figured I should probably consider getting some IoT stuff myself that actually speaks MQTT, and see if I can set up some curl stuff to talk to it. Hi. So basically what we need to do is we need to remove stuff like this, like doing a local variable that keeps memory like this. It needs to have a state and allocate this in a state and keep it in the right, and we need to have a struct associated with this transfer when it's related to MQTT. We do have that for other protocols like this, I believe. Here, look at this. All right, that's the connection related protocol specific data. And we have sometimes when I stream, I'm good at putting up a little sign somewhere saying what I'm working on. So, but I don't have that now. So that's why when you newbies pop in here and you wonder what I'm working on. But it's so hard to have that, what I'm working on, and they just tend to keep, it becomes wrong or stale because I forget to update it. But I'm still working on this pull request 5173, which is MQTT in curl. So I need to fix sending and reading data, high-speed data really. What's it called? It's called single request. Request specific data. Here's what I wanted. I think there's some. No, it's not. Trying to remember. Where do we use this, for example? Setup like this. Let's set up connection. There it is. Proto-P we call it. Proto-P. Allocated protocol specific data. And it's a void pointer. That's really ugly. I should clean that up at some point. But not now. Now I'm just going to mimic that approach. So we have everything in curl is pretty much either transfer oriented or connection oriented, right? So we can associate the data, any data, with the transfer or with a particular connection. And the transfer is basically the easy handle. So you create a handle when you do a transfer and you set properties and stuff in that handle, and then you do perform a transfer on that handle. So the transfer and the handle, they're pretty much one association. And then each transfer can use one or more connections. So we can set up and create connections and use connections. Can actually reuse connections from the pool as well. So the question then becomes, where do you store temporary data? Is the data related to the connection or is the data related to the transfer? And in this case, I would say it's related to the transfer. It's not related to the connection, even if the connection is used. So this, I will set up MQTT specific struct. Here's one that is used for the connection, protocol specific connection related data, but I want a struct for protocol specific transfer related data. Here it is. And there I'm going to have this for example, when I read a publish we're going to have a state in MQ. There's another state for the connection. That's also good, but we need another state for the transfer. Yeah, okay. Let me take a short coffee break. And well, everyone can have a short coffee break. And those who won't get a coffee break, they can watch my fine little coffee break screen here. And I'll get a coffee and I'll be back in 1.5 minutes. And then I'll also get some break to think about this for a second. Okay, coffee refill time. I actually have a whole collection of weird products with curl and curly and things on them, so kind of fun. Okay, configure a bunch of VoIP phones. Nah, I don't think that sounds like fun. Good luck. I think I'll reuse that state or that we already have. Packet allocated for incoming data. Maybe I don't need to allocate since we have sort of buffers for receiving data already. So now I see there's sort of activity in the IRC channel at the same time here. So now I get a problem to keep two chats at the same time. But I'll just ignore the IRC for now, since for streaming I'll focus on the Twitch chat. Okay. State. So the state is in the connection struct. But okay, I guess that is fine. Okay. So how much code do we have? 500 lines of code in the MQTT.c file for curl. Not too shabby. I mean, it's not massive. So, of course, it's not complete yet either, but decent. Setup connection. We want to add a setup connection function to set up the struct for the transfer related stuff. MQTT setup con. I want to get expired by the HTTP setup con. I will copy that. MQTT setup con. MQTT. So I think I might actually get better at writing MQTT over time. Even if I'm still a bit slow. It's not a natural combination, so that I'm not used to writing this protocol name. So we will allocate the struct and store it like that. So that we have the pointer to that during the transfer. do we need that? Okay, I'm thinking something is not ideal here. Why does it read everything separately? I mean, we have a read buffer in curl. It should use the read buffer, not its own. So look at the handler here. We have a do. The do protocol handler call is basically the issues the request. Doing if we need to continue do the request. And then we have perform. That's the part where it actually does the transfer. But I imagine that we don't actually do a perform with this protocol. We only do a request basically, and it will never consider it a perform. I'm not sure it matters. It's just details about the internal state, really, how we do file transfer in curl. With all the protocols are basically going through a bunch of different states, and we can pretty much select to do things in different states if we want to. But in general, the perform state is where we are supposed to do the actual file transfer part of the operation. And in our case, I guess that's I might need to consider things here. So we do the MQTT do this issues it sends the connect. But what if it doesn't send the entire thing? We need to handle that. It needs to create the outgoing buffer. Which it does. But that buffer needs to be allocated somewhere, and it needs to be stored somewhere. Okay, so what if I do a con packet 32? Con for the packet for connect. Room for connect. And maybe we do it entirely like that, and then here we we don't need to copy the entire thing unless we get an end of an E again, so I'll just busy write should not be a busy write anymore. busy write should be MQTT send. MQTT send. So no busy handling within this. This should just send something, but yeah, and it. So no busy write. It's now called send. Send, and the thing is here that I know. Send, of course, need to deal with it. So if send, if it gets an E again, back, it's actually called curl E underscore again. Here, if it gets an again, this means it couldn't send the entire thing. It needs to call it again. Or how is it? Oh no, right. It's even more tricky. It actually doesn't return E again if it sends only part of the buffer. It'll return the number of bytes it's sent, which might not be the entire buffer. If it's if len isn't n, so if it didn't send the entire thing, there's a piece that we didn't send. That's the piece we need to keep that and send it later. And this is basically, we do this approach in other places. In the HTTP code, we okay, right now I think I'm going to opt to just allocate that. So send leftovers is going to be this many bytes, and we're going to allocate that do we have a memdup? We do. dup, we actually duplicate from buff that many bytes in from there and send left. That's how many bytes we want to save. So okay, if we don't send everything, we allocate, we save the rest in a new allocated buffer. And we need to store that information. And we actually, we should data proto p. Was it like, no, it's not like that, right? Proto p. Like that. It's protocol specific parts of the transfer, protocol specific data. So this is going to not build, I was going to say, but comparison differ in size, n is s size. Unused variable, yes, because I wanted to do this, right? The MQ send leftovers MQ, and send is send. If not send leftovers, this is a serious error. That's a good question. What is curl? I think this link should explain it. Send leftovers and it pointers. Okay, so this now will just keep the left. It might actually work to do a single test like this. Could be interesting. Yes, it does, because it usually doesn't block on that send, and usually that send works in the first attempt. So okay, but this at least shows that I didn't break anything violently, and it didn't ever allocate anything here, because it would, if it would, it would have been a memory leak. So yeah, if I repeat this, I'm sure that we will run into a bug like that. Yeah, and that's to be expected. And yes, so okay, now I did the send. Here's a state machine, the doing thing, right? So pretty much if we get into the doing and we still have an outstanding packet, we need to send that packet before we do anything else. So before we check anything else, we check if And here's the MQ thing again. MQ, that thing. We get that struct, and if MQ and send is anything, then we need to drain that buffer before we do anything else. So I'm thinking maybe I should just make this function first prefer to drain that buffer. Like this. What if we would do MQTT send con, and we would send this buffer with this length. If it would happen again, then if the E again would happen again, it would then allocate a new buffer. MQTT publish. Well, if you look at the GitHub code that is in there right now, should probably be there. If you looked at the one I pushed just half an hour ago, so payload plus 10 plus topic length. I'm redoing the actual sending of the data right now anyway, so maybe I'll get around to that. But you said the plus topic length, payload length. You're right. Because payload length, this sort of topic length, it adds that. So yeah, I agree. This is really not right. Why did it not trigger any interesting way? I mean, I ran this with Valgrind, so apparently we didn't do any serious overwriting of memory. Payload length is just the size of the date of the payload. 10. Oh, I should. I've sent so small topics, I guess, in my tests. So you publish, and then I need to again look at the spec here in my other window, and it's the spec looks like this. Publish. Bytes, and explain the bits, and then there's the variable header topic name. Must be present as the first field in the public packet. Yeah, I assume that means the length first and then the actual. So yes, it should actually be topic length plus 2, right, for the length bytes as well, I imagine. So I would imagine that it would be and I think it should actually, I don't know the real length. I mean, this is since we don't the length encoding variable length encoding here also makes it of a different length. So maybe I should, let me see here, it encodes the length into that position. Well, Valgrind should hit if we overwrite the allocated memory, yes. So we should hit it if we would have. But I need to retry. I actually need to do another test, I think, with a much longer topic and probably much longer payload too, to make sure that a long payload and a long topic works fine as well. And that might make sense. I could do it like this. I should just, you know, if I do it here instead of 1190, I should do the test 1192, and instead of, so it should add here. It could be 64K easily, right? So I should just add maybe 2Ks. And wait a minute. What? Okay, but if we do 248 adds uppercase A's like this. So this should work. And I think maybe it won't find the test case correctly, will it? Anyway, I think this is a valid unsubscribe 2K topic, just to make sure that it actually works. So if we run 1192, bam. Right, we also need to fix the verification, but still. I'll get back to that. So I have that test case now, so we can fix the test case. I'll just fix this little, not little, but important. So I need to save the pointer before I pass it to the function, because it'll override it within there, and then I will have to free it afterwards, like that. And if this saves, where is it there? If it's not called like that, it should be a send, MQTT send. And if MQTT send returns again, if it returns again, we cannot continue from here. If result, right, if result then return result, so that includes E again. Data declared struct curl. So each connection has a pointer to the transfer associated with it. So I can actually get the data pointer from the con pointer like that. Okay, then where are we? Maybe not 1192, because that's not going to work, but 1190 should work. So 1190, boom, and since we know we don't really trigger this logic anyway, send the remainder of an outgoing packet. That's what we do there. So if we do repeat, Yeah, it's too slow with Valgrinds. It's not going to trigger anything. But okay, at least it runs over and over in the in the semi-slow version. Sure, that's fine. And if we do it without Valgrind, boom, it worked, and there's no memory leaks. What if we repeat it 30 times? Boom. Goody goody. I didn't fix 50 times. I didn't fix the receiving of data, but this at least fixes the. There's still a memory leak here if we close this mid connection, so because I don't really clean up the send leftovers pointer, so it might actually be allocated when. But let's save that for a moment. CD, I want to do this, and I want to like that. MQTT fix send with E again. Ooh, but no, I think that'll work because that's a generic pointer, so that generic pointer might be. I don't remember. Okay. What if I run? Okay, so let me try 1192 then. 1192 to make sure that that works as well, and that might. To make sure that it actually behaves the way it should behave. Looks too small, right? That's not 2Ks. From the log server input burn. This is not, it's just 500 bytes of log, so that's not, it's not working. It's not doing right. Hello. It's also so maybe it doesn't work with really big red 272 bytes. Tests log trace sent 2060 bytes. That looks correct. So it looked like the client side did right. And it does send a trailing 0, I believe, which it shouldn't. Well, it doesn't have to, at least. It depends on if it counts the length. The length shouldn't include the 0, at least. So maybe this is a server issue. Looks like a server silly thing. Read buffer. It only does a very small buffer. 256 plus 16. So it reads, that's the entire thing it reads. It's a bit naive to just do it like that, but okay. Let's be okay with 10k MQTT request. That should at least get us through this little test. And there we see a much bigger thing coming in. Is it the entire thing? Server input 1200. It's not the entire thing. $2,000 bytes plus a few. And it comes in here, it's hex encoded, so there should be 4,000 bytes of line here. MQTT log read 2060 bytes. Okay, so it's the logging function then. There's always something. Log hex 1200 bytes. Log hex, and there's a log protocol too. Now we're talking. $4,000 bytes. But it doesn't get the hello. Incoming subscribe, wrong packet lang, got 10, expected 2058. So yeah, that's that's fun. MQTT.c. So subscribe. Right, and still we talked about the publish, and that's not the same function. But okay, I'll make a fourth test then with a huge publish as well. So let's check. Wrong packet length. Got 10, expected 2058. 10. This is the 10, I believe, right? That's subscribe. Okay, over to Mr. Spec. Subscribe. Yep, it's the remaining length. It's the dreaded remaining length. So it's wrong. Encode. it should encode the packet length. At that pointer, yes. Oh, sorry, I've got all into this. I'm writing code again. So yeah, I'm adjusting the subscribe function so that it'll figure out the packet length, but it doesn't know the packet length completely because it doesn't know the encoder, the encoded length size. So it's an interesting sort of dilemma that the packet size depends on no, it doesn't depend. Yes, subscribe to my MQTT publish stream. No, YouTube channel. No, so the size of the packet is going to be depending on the size of the packet, or sort of the encoded length that encodes. It's interesting. So I'm going to so I had to encode the rest, encode the size of the rest, so to figure out how big the encoded size is. Okay, I'm going to do it like this. Sure, encoded size, and it's going to be maximum 4 bytes. And I'm going to encode length into that encoded size. Encode len. This is the number of bytes, the length, encode len. Number of bytes the size field will use. So the packet len is everything, is topic plus 2 really. Because in the packet there's only the topic length and the topic itself. And once we know, so that's the packet len that we encode, and then we know that the packet len, the entire packet will grow with this many bytes. And that's what we allocate. A bit confusing here, but I think I'm getting to it. So then I'm copying the encoded size, which is in encode len bytes long, is at least 1 byte, possibly up to 4 if it's super huge. And it's not going to be that. And here I'm going to do 1. They will then, maybe I'll just call this encode len is going to be n. don't need to do any zero termination. Nope, we don't. It's okay. Ooh, maybe I did that. Did I do it wrong? What did I mess up? Let's try to build it first and see what I did wrong. Implicit declaration. Just need to have that function before. Packlen undeclared packetlen packetlen. Ooh, okay. But I could just run 1190, and if 1190 works, it's good. It broke. Basically, it didn't add the topic. Topic len. Should be packet. It shouldn't be -2 there. It should be. I got all entangled in this, but clearly the subscribe packet wasn't encoded correctly. It was encoded a bit naively and assumed that we had a very short packet all the time, which we of course can't depend on. So clearly this is still not correct. We're still sending, I'm sure maybe the server will reveal something. It will say wrong packet len, got 6, expected 5. Well, curl can be used to do quite a lot of different, many sort of different internet transfers. HTTP, HTTPS being the ones that people are most familiar with and use the most, but it can talk 24 different transfer protocols. And MQTT being number 25 is not there yet, of course, but I'm working on it. And then MQTT-S, I assume, will be number 26, but I haven't even tried MQTT-S yet. But adding TLS to the mix should be fairly easy. I mean, should. How hard can it be? I'll get to that later. I'll probably do the TLS part of MQTT in a separate PR once I'm fairly content with how things look. And since everything is sort of still experimental with MQTT, I will land it sort of in an experimental mode to let people experiment with it, and it'll be fun. But of course I won't land it until the feature window opens in April 29, I believe, or whatever it is. We are looking forward let's see, there's a release notes. Here's the release notes for the pending release. It says 29 of April. That's the coming release version. So on April 29, curl 7.70.0 is presumably going to be released. And after that, I can merge MQTT support, assuming that it actually is in a state that is suitable to get merged. The ones who made curl the most, they're actually here. Here are the top authors of curl. Already talked about it like 20 minutes ago. So yes, back to my little thing. How did this go wrong? I removed the 0 at the end. Maybe that is related. So yeah, this doesn't have any 0 anymore at the end. Shouldn't be any 0 there. That's the subscribe. Looks wrong. Topic len. And in the case of 1190, just a 1. That's wrong. How did that happen? Tests data test 1190. What happened to it? 1190. So I'm going to use this fancy feature again. I'm going to run test 1190 with the debugger, and I'm going to put the breakpoint in MQTT subscribe and run it. And I'm going to use layout next to show you the code. Okay, so topic, it should get, there's topic length. Topic len is 4 bytes and it should be 1190, right? So yes. So now packet len should be 6. Packet len, it is. And n should be 1. And coded size says 6. All that looks correct. And it packet len n is incorrect, I think. It should actually add 1 for the initial byte as well. So 1 byte extra, otherwise it'll I wrote 57% of all commits in curl, 14,552, but we're 770 something users authors who actually wrote code that has been merged to curl. Commit authors 777 actually, and since the previous release there are 8 new commit authors, and 20 persons have committed code or written code committed since the previous release, which was 4 weeks and 2 days ago. Yeah, it's a nice number. So I should add 1 byte to that, so the packet len becomes 1 more. Well, the first +2 is the topic plus 2 bytes topic length. Since the topic is prefixed by a 16-bit topic length. But wait a minute. Yeah, this has a packet ID, right? It's a packet ID that's also 2 bytes. So there's actually 4 bytes topic length. packet ID plus topic. More like that, I think. Here's the packet ID, then this topic length, then the topic. So maybe it's something like that. I'm still such a MQTT rookie, so sort of these protocol details there, I have to constantly go back and forth and look in the spec to remember how to do the different packets. So let's shut down that and get back to, boom, run this test again. And now I think we're actually, this is actually me fixing the problem, right? Because this says a 0 at the end, but it shouldn't be a 0 at the end. So it should actually be 8 bytes there. The 0 at the end is a C thing that I don't think anyone wants. Yeah, I should add a comment about the wrong topic length got 4. The server is also wrong, I think. For the control packet type byte. The server now thinks it's wrong, but is it? It says wrong topic length got 4, but it is 4, and then 31, 31, 39, 30, that is 4. Wrong. But it should be, that's wrong as well. So yeah, that makes test 1190 work, but now this will fail because now it's not going to match anymore. First, 1192 will need, it shouldn't have the 0 at the end. And then I guess it'll change some byte, another byte in the beginning, right? Oh, it will change several bytes in the beginning. 2891. Maybe. Oh, sorry, 8910. Let me also check if what the server MQTT log. If did the server like this? It didn't, right? Wrong packet length got 137, expected 2058. Yes, yes, silly server. Who wrote that? Decode. Decode length from So it has to decode, right? No, it's called payload. It's not actually payload length, but okay, we call it that already. Now payload length is the remainder. It doesn't include the initial byte, and it doesn't include the actual size of the length field itself. Bytes plus 1. Then it should be the entire thing. But let's call it like if payload length isn't RC minus bytes minus 1. And then where the actual data starts, it starts at 1 plus bytes I plus 1 I plus 2 I plus 3 complicated. Yeah, it says payload, but there's no payload in subscribe at all. So it's actually, the variable name isn't really well suited for that. It should say something else, I think. Returns a size t. What's it complaining about? Warning, conversion from size t to unsigned int. Where's the unsigned int? There it is. Hello. There, size t. So this doesn't actually get a payload length. This is I should just remaining length instead, because that's what they call it in the spec. Okay, well, it still doesn't work, but I think first I'm going to make sure that the server is not wrong topic length. Got, okay. Got expected. Does it really expect remaining? That's what the code expects, at least. Let's see what it says. Expected 2055. Got. So let's see, the client sends subscribe it. Right, it should be topic length +4, which the server doesn't. So it should be -4. Really. That's a disconnect, so no. Oh right, it needs some more, right? That's it has these lines, should actually have these lines as well. This looks buggy. Why? I'm approaching lunchtime again, of course, so 82. The problem with having such a long line is really complicated to view the diff of them. Check expected, looks like that. Check generated, looks like that. So if I put them next to each other, we can see that they're very similar, apart from there. 82. Look, there's a 8910 00 8910 001. Yeah, that's the packet ID, and then 0805 blah blah blah. Now it looks like it at least expects. The generated and expected. We didn't get the full thing, so let's look at the server log. Wrote disconnect, probably because it didn't. Right, something is not right. The server, and because it didn't do the sub act, did it? It did do a sub act. Oh, and then there's the publish one. The publish one should be this huge thing, because now we got you mean the 1192? I think no, because the publish in the 1192 case, the publish is done from the server and not from the client. So it's but it's possibly similar, because now the thing is we need to fix this, I think, because as we can see in the log, the server writes a publish here, and this, I believe, might be wrong, or at least it's not handled right. So I need to double check my publish. So I think it worked fine for the small publish, but I think maybe I did wrong there as well. So here as well. So here's the publish. And the publish now will have the topic and the payload, so it'll be twice as big. Just 1192. No, because the payload is really small. That's the hello payload, so it'll. Yes. Okay. One mistake here. It just makes a I gotta fix this first. So I have this. How to find the test number in the topic. I just did a tutorial, which is not good enough. If we send a really huge topic, we need to find the test number pointer with find the last slash in the topic, and if there is such a one, but if there's not such a one, set the pointer to the topic, and then we can get the number from the test number pointer. And then the question, you know, do I use the options in the right order? I did not. Was there in the other order? Topic, comma, slash. Of course. That will make us go one little step further, but it still will fail, I'm sure. But now the log will say that we got the right. So I'm going to go for lunch. I'm going to close the stream for today. I managed to do the publish test case and have that. I pushed that to the PR, right? So the PR over here is going pretty good. So up there still fails. I'm going to check that out, and I'm going to make sure. But I mean, I knew that blah 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 blah, and now everything's screwed up. At least OBS is really misbehaving. I'm going to take off to lunch. Lunchtime. My OBS is really acting up now. I don't even know if you can hear me. But anyway, I'm closing this now, and I will be back another day. Not today, but another day. I will follow up with more commits to this PR as I progress more. Have a good day, everyone.